I told myself I'm going to do this thing that I love and I'm going to make $1 million a year doing it. And I'm going to, I'm going to value my services really highly. I'm going to put it in the work just like I do, at my desk job.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. I am so pumped to keep going with our Coaches That Don't Suck series. And I've invited my friend Ryan Brazzell to join us today. Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Hey, Amanda. It's good. I'm great. I'm excited. Can't wait to share some stuff and get into it.
I love it. Ryan and I met in a mastermind. We both believe in the power of coaching, and we were in a coaching program together. I mentioned that I was doing this series, and Ryan was one of the first people to say, "Hey, let's talk about it." Ryan, why don't you just take 30 seconds and help people understand what it is that you do? I'd really love to know how you got into it.
I think the core of everything that I do has always been around, and I actually had somebody else in our coaching group help me describe this about myself, but it's around bending time. So it's systems plus
Ooh.
people plus technology. As a kid, I grew up in Tennessee, a lot of manual labor, a lot of hard work. My dad one time got really angry at me because he was like, go out into the yard, and we had a couple acres. He's like, go out into the yard, pick up a bunch of sticks, get them into the woods. And so that would have been like you're going to all these different places and grabbing things. I have this go-kart that I got for Christmas a few years ago. I'm going to tie a rope behind it and put all the sticks in a big bundle, and then I'm going to save myself hours of time. And I did that. He came back and he was like, that's being lazy. And it's funny because I realized that is the way my brain has always worked. It's like efficiency, optimizing, making things easier. And when it, as it relates to companies, it's like profitability, operational efficiency, and overall just making your business easier to run. I've done some form of that either in consulting. I've worked at the corporate level and traveled all over the world, built teams in the Philippines to manage back office operations for a big tech company. And then when I started my own company, I moved to San Diego back in 2015. And I started my own consulting around systems and systems design and systems engineering. Since then, I started a company called Assistant Launch, which is my current company. We've been around for 5 years. We help fast growth founders to buy back their time with executive assistants. So it's like the person, the process and systems, plus the support. And it's really fun. We work with a ton of coaches. We work with Y Combinator backed $200 million companies that we work with too. And I get to explore the lives of entrepreneurs and what is going on in their personal life and their business life that's dragging them down. So there's a lot of,
So
there's
good.
obviously so much in between and after, like we have an AI mastermind as well. But I think at the core of everything is I really, really value time. I have the number of hours in an average human life tattooed on my chest.
So I have a tattoo around time, and it's do what matters,
Oh, I love that. I love that.
right? I just knew we were going to be like fast.
I saw your blog and I was like, there's some cool overlaps here for sure.
I have a background in my education is in chemical engineering. Didn't work a day in my life as an engineer. But that whole process flow thing is tattooed on my brain. Then I went on to become a consultant for one of the world's biggest consulting firms for about a decade. And yeah, it was a lot of efficiency work, but also efficacy and being more effective with what you're doing. And it's so interesting because I found my real superpower was through relationships. When I actually describe to others how I do relationship, it's very systemy. It's not cold, it's warm, and it's connecting and it's authentic. But if I didn't have my systems, you and I definitely wouldn't be talking. We wouldn't have the follow up, the follow through, and the back and forth and all that. And so that's one of my favorite things to talk about with coaches is like, how can you get your time back by designing things to be easier, take it out of your head.
I
So
think
here's a question.
there's also to play devil's advocate. In my career, I've found that, systems are one part of it, but
Yep.
you over rely on systems and you lose, you can get burnt out. You can lose that the creative element that makes entrepreneurship fun. I've been trying to detach systems from my identity. Like we talk about it in podcasts and speaking opportunities and stuff like that. But I've been trying to lean more into the leadership side of things, the people development side of things, the like coaching my team. And then there's systems within that, but I don't, I think you over rely on systems too much and you can miss out on, certain things.
This is actually one of the things as I started my business about 8 years ago, even though I love systems and I use them at home all the time and I'm a nut job for getting things done, methodology and all that kind of stuff. I felt like my own consumption, particularly around marketing and sales, felt so impersonal. Some of my first coaches that I actually hired for myself, I noticed that it was because I met them in person. We were like in an event, we hit it off, we were hanging out in the bar at the networking event, and then it kind of moved to that here's how you could help me and this is what it would take to work together kind of conversation. For the first couple of years of my business, I was actually anti-online, which is really funny because now I teach marketing and sales. In the beginning, I think I was so worried that the coldness of system would be off-putting to others. What I realized later is you can have technique around systems to make it warmer, more connected, and to be more authentic. And there's quite a bit that I do still quite manually, but I'm still following like the rhythms in the process. What do you think about how AI is changing all of that? Like can people be using these tools really effectively? Like I know a lot of coaches, they're tempted by AI or they're using AI, but it's kind of creating coldness in system. I'm curious about your take on that.
We could probably talk about this for hours. So yeah, I mean, at a macro level, AI is changing the nature of value creation. So as an entrepreneur, if you're not learning and playing with AI in some way, getting in a community, talking about it regularly, you will inevitably be behind compared to those people who are. If we're talking content creation, leveraging AI in your sales and marketing function, I think some people have it wrong and that it can be really effective. I actually just spoke last week on Kyle Van Boris's presentation. One of the things I have helped other people leverage and taught them in our mastermind is there's two things we talked about with Kyle. One was how we leverage AI to generate highly customized proposals at scale.
Cool.
The paradigm shift for me was, take this conversation as an example. We have a transcript coming from this call. If you have an AI note taker,
Oh yeah.
you can use whatever. From that transcript, you can run it in Claude or GPT or whatever, and then extract, let's say it was a sales call, right? It's your pain points, your goals, the things that you mentioned, maybe even have AI help you generate some additional ideas. So for us, when we speak with a client who's telling us about their day and how they're wasting their time, we extract all of that. Then I have an assistant who runs the process and will create a fully customized proposal that speaks to those points, speaks to those goals that they have. Everything there is highly customized, which is the direction where sales is going. It's going to start at the advertising level. Within the next year or so, you'll see ads are going to start becoming, it's going to say, hey, Amanda, have you thought about X, Y, and Z in the voice that you like to hear, in the color that you like to see, in the type of language that you speak? It's going to become highly customized. If you're selling a product, you need to know how to make it highly customized and highly personalized because that's what people expect. The process is really cool. The last piece, which I think most people were most excited about in this presentation, is if you have a sales team or if you are an individual who sells, the biggest drop-off point is the follow-up and follow-through. Meeting with new leads, you're speaking with them, they're excited, you're excited, and then just because of lack of action, nothing happens. So what we do is we take the same transcript, the same conversation that we have with someone, and then we have 5 emails that get generated immediately after the call takes place. So let's say that you and I spoke and you're talking about spending a lot of time every day putting together invites for an event and talking about a bunch of administrative things in your business. What we do is email 1 says, hey, Amanda, have you checked out the proposal? Just a boilerplate response. But email 2 says, hey, Amanda, I had an idea. I know you're running these events. Have you thought about having someone organize the entire schedule and contact the vendors and take care of X, Y, and Z? So the prompt that generates that response says, okay, let's go into the transcript, find a novel idea that we didn't talk about on our call, and mention it just kind of like 7 days after, right? It's always 7 days. And so there's these cool things that you can do. And you have one at the 3 day, at the 2 week mark that's like, hey, Amanda, I know you wanted to bring an assistant on board. And I know that you said you wanted to spend more time with your kids. Every founder that's ever brought an assistant on has been able to, whatever. And so you can
Right.
these really interesting follow-up messages. The whole point of the speech that I did with Kyle was we saw a 33% increase in conversions from doing that alone. And so we put a sales assistant responsible for taking care of all the follow-up. They would send the
Yep.
emails on the schedule. That's an example of something that on the other end, no one is going to be able to tell that I didn't write those messages or that our sales team didn't write those messages. And it's generating 33% more conversions than before.
I really love this example because I remember when AI first came out, I actually panicked, and I think a lot of coaches did as well. Like, oh, nobody's going to want to hire a coach anymore because they're just going to have a coach buddy type app. You're already seeing the boyfriends and the girlfriends kind of coming out on AI. Why would somebody want to hire a coach? And I think it's normal to have those kinds of thoughts. I know for me, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use it. I'm going to use the AI. Like you said, I'm going to join different communities and have conversations about AI. I'm going to embrace this thing because it's not going anywhere. And it's a little like the buggy whip producers getting upset when the car comes out, right? It's like this is a really big change. I love your example about having really customized follow-up. I recently was setting up like a just a very basic Zapier automation to do exactly that, connected with my chat GPT. I got some new ideas from how you did it, but just having AI help just do a draft of an email
Yep.
saves me 5 to 10 minutes every single time. And, I'm a big believer in like kind of start with the template and then add the customization. But I think it's really promising for a lot of coaches because where you might have had to have a really big team to be able to have the same impact, you can actually set up quite a bit for not that much expense. I've found a few years into AI being around, people very much want coaches. They very much want that human connection. And I've even used it in my coaching
Yep.
when there would be a challenge or behavior that was new to me in a coaching conversation. I would use AI to help generate ideas about how I can help move my client forward. So I've become a major ally of the AI forces, even though at first I was kind of like, is this going to hurt my relevancy? What do you think about that?
Yeah, the personal roles that a couple of things. One um, is essentially taking over a lot of high leverage things as well, but it's just taking everyone and their roles and putting them into a higher leverage place. As an example, if you're a programmer or developer, a lot of the low leverage essential build outs of building software applications is done by AI. I literally just talked to someone yesterday who their team is doing this. If you're a researcher, the layout of your document is, so I think like the low leverage stuff is being taken care of and it will continue to be that. And then that leaves the high leverage work. I think truthfully, the world is going to change in 18 months or so. The world will change a ton. There's a lot of things that are going to cascade. And so if you're a coach, if you're an employee, if you're a founder, getting into a higher leverage place means figuring out what you love to do, what you're great at, and spending as much of your time there, figuring out a way, whether with AI or people, to get out of the weeds is really important. On the coaching
Yeah.
side, I think coaches are probably akin to, the work that coaches do is not going anywhere with AI. I have actually found this in our business with executive assistants. Initially, I was like, oh, yeah, AI is going to come and disrupt our industry majorly. I think we're several years away from that being a possibility because there's just so much context. There's so many pieces of your life that you have to.
It's the context, right? Because I think of a lot of AI tools, it's like this super overeager intern that'll give you an answer no matter what. And they do lack context. That's why I say intern. They lack kind of that context that if you're not, mastering that prompt and being thoughtful about what's going in, you're just choosing to operate at a higher value place. And so therefore you need to develop some additional skill set. And what I've noticed in my own journey is it's like you, spending more time on leadership and spending more time on like how am I interfacing with communities and collaborating. Those things have become far more important to create the same results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the higher leverage stuff, right?
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
coaching is not going to be, I mean, the the coaches who maybe are like the way they create value is by just basically providing information. I think those people are going to be in trouble potentially, because information is being completely democratized at this point. Um,
Totally.
but
Well, thinking of which, I love to ask in this segment, like, what do you think are three things that helps a coach not to suck? So, like that could even be one of them is like, just don't be an information regurgitation machine.
I think a lot of people early on, that's what it is. So
Yeah.
the coaches that I've worked with that didn't suck, um, one is I think I mean, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is just holding you to a higher standard and not, from my personal style, I like being coached this way, where it's like, look, I see something in you that is really special and really valuable. And the way you're showing up is not allowing that to express itself. So I like being held to a higher standard, and that accountability is really important.
Hmm.
Um, I think similar to what I mentioned earlier, I think the best coaches are really clear on the value that they create and really clear on their gift and their specialty. I know we both work with Dan Martell, and that's
Hmm.
um, he is unabashedly himself, and
Hmm.
um, and vulnerable and really vulnerable. I think that's a key piece of it too. If we talk about like how AI impacts coaching, it's like AI can't be vulnerable and really deeply connect with a part of you that, if you really want to affect change with someone, I don't know what type of coaching your coaches are necessarily involved in, but if you want to affect change, you have to do it through emotion and through, making people feel something. And I think, um, if you're just a robot, you're like, okay, coaching client one, coaching client two, having conversation, and you're not actually like digging deep and really getting vulnerable with them, it's going to be difficult to affect change with people. So the best coaches I've worked with have done that. They've really touched me on an emotional level. Um, yeah, I think those two things. What would be the last to help people to not suck? Um, Yeah, I see this is the last piece is I see a lot of coaches who are really good at what they do, but if you look behind the scenes, it's really messy and they're not collecting payments that they should be so they actually do their clients a disservice because their business isn't being run like a business. So,
Ooh, that's so good. That's
yeah.
so good. I think like a lot of coaches, when we start out, we want to be so coachy. And I have a class that I teach pretty regularly, and I'm like, when I very first started as a coach and I got my certification, it almost felt like the expectations you go stand out in the middle of the courtyard and scream, I'm a coach now, and just like have a bunch of people care about that, and that's not it at all. It's really about connecting authentically with the value and then just going pro with it, like really
I wrote that
treating
down. I
it.
wrote GoPro because that's exactly.
Yeah, like just like decide like this is a service, it's valuable. I am a talented provider of said service. And, here's the experience that goes along with that.
Yeah, there's a guy in our group, and he left his job after I think 20 years in the valleys. He worked like as a graphic designer, and he decided he was going to become an artist. And I started talking to him like, how did you decide that? Because in your 40s, becoming an artist, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I told myself I'm going to do this thing that I love, and I'm going to make $1 million a year doing it, and I'm going to value my services really highly. I'm going to put it in the work just like I do, at my desk job. I'm going to come in at 4 in the morning, and it's just he went pro with it, and it's been really interesting to watch his journey. But that's what you have
Yeah,
to do.
that's huge. That's what you have to
Otherwise,
do.
no one gets impacted. No one gets to benefit your gift. No one gets to benefit from your.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, Ryan, we've got to do this and we got to spend some more time. But for now, how can people follow you? And yeah, what's the best way to track you down?
Instagram, I'm really active there. So it's at Ryan Brazzell, RyanBrazzell. I post a lot of cool stuff there. Um, and then yeah, I'll share. I've got some interesting resources that I could share with people. One of them is it's actually an AI backed tool that allows you to understand what are you spending your time on that you probably shouldn't be spending your time on, that an executive assistant can help with.
Oh,
Um,
that's juicy. That's a good one.
yeah, and what's cool is you guys can use it and then you can steal the idea for your own lead magnet because we put this on our website. We used to have it on our website, but you enter your name, your information, and then we're able to generate a custom report that comes out in a form of a Google Doc, and you can look at it and figure out what percentage of things you're working on that you shouldn't be daily, weekly, monthly. So I think that's a good resource. And but in general, you reach out anything related to the topics we talked about today, AI, executive assistants, whatever, we give away everything. So we'll give away all the templates, all the resources, all the playbooks.
You're a
Happy.
gem, Ryan. Thank you so much for doing that. And a listener, thank you so much for tuning in on this episode. Make sure you take a moment to subscribe so you don't miss the next one and leave us a 5-star review. It helps others find this episode and benefit from it. And, go ahead and help some of your friends. I'm sure you've got friends who are AI curious, who want to spend their time very wisely. Go ahead and share this episode. We will see you next time.